Welcome to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is your podcast for all things hockey. On this podcast, we talk about past history to the modern day and what you can do to grow the sport. I am your host, Adam Rothstein. All right, let's get to the show. After 46 years, the United States wins gold in the Olympics in Milan. I can't believe it. And now some of you are wondering, if you're watching this, why I'm wearing a Washington Nationals cap. Well, I thought, what the heck? Red, white, and blue. That's the colors of the hat. And DC is the capital of the United States. So I thought, hey, makes perfect sense. And it did. I don't know where to begin. How about this? How about Matt Boldy getting the first goal for the United States? Who had that on their bingo card? Did not. Cale Makar getting it, a goal in the second, and it took until OT, until Mr. Jack Hughes scored the overtime winner after Sam Bennett deliberately high-sticked him, and he got 4 minutes for it because Jack Hughes had blood. So, yeah, definitely, I do not. I just still am, blown away by that. I don't know if the Bennett play cost Canada or not necessarily. I mean, it didn't in the heat of the moment, but Quinn to his brother. Talk about brotherly love. And Jack Hughes just gets it by Bennington and he wins it. And, McDavid was a little upset. Celebrini could have won it in the third, had he got a little more of a higher, had he elevated the puck a little more, and could have beaten Hellbuck, and it could have been a very different game. There was a time in the third, don't remember the exact moment, but they should have been called, the United States should have been called for too many men on the ice. There wasn't, they let it get away, but I'll go back to the first, where Tom Wilson deliberately tried to slide and hit one of the defenders. I forget who, but he slid in, and I think he actually might have hit Quinn Hughes. I think, don't quote me on that though, but Wilson's slide was deliberate too. And there were a lot of takedowns and things that the refs just let them go. There was a little, scrub. I don't know if you want to chalk that up to, fighting necessarily, but there are definitely scrubs in front of both nets as well. And they let them go. And apparently Freebird was playing after the Boldy goal. And I don't know if I had this feeling in my mind. I thought, oh, Canada's going to find a way to tie it. We're going to overtime. Well, they did. It's just, a little sooner than I thought. It wasn't in the third, but in the second, Makar still finds a way. He scored the only goal for Canada, and even though the Canadians outshot them more than 40 shots, I think it might have been 41-27. Don't quote me on that with the final numbers, but I think that I don't know if the Americans got lucky necessarily. I mean, they had Hellebuck, but the Canadians had luck on their side. Things should have gone their way. There were so many shots that just got lucky, bad bounces, double doinks, the works too. And I think if the rink was about 200 feet exactly, and not the 196, not the size of the old Chicago Stadium rink, but a 200-foot rink exactly, I think McDavid finds a way to beat Hellebuck on his breakaway in the first, and and maybe Celebrini has a little bit more room to run and gets a shot over Hellebuck or something like that. And and it really does show that I think maybe it was a sign that of things to come, of things just being so unique in this Olympic run, and the women winning it too. And I think this just caps off the greatest. Um, this might be the greatest hockey game of all time right now. I don't know if you still want to chalk it up to 1980 as the greatest hockey game of all time. You could still point to plenty of NHL games. You could point to Game 7 of the 2001 Stanley Cup Final as the greatest hockey game of all time. But but I think this is going to go down as the most viewed in world history. If it gets over 150 million viewers on this, I think that's pretty good too, because you have Canada on this. There were plenty of people watching this. The governor of New York allowed the sale of alcohol from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So, hey, drink all day for all we care, sort of thing. So, good on the New York governor for that one, and pretty much any governor and or any local and state officials who did give the green light for the sale of alcohol at 6 in the morning local time. So good on y'all too. Um, with that. Oh, I don't know what uh, I don't know if the women winning the gold medal in for the US and Megan Keller getting the game winner too, and then Jack Hughes getting his game winner. I don't know if there was like some foreshadowing to that, because guess what? Both the final scores were 2-1. 2-1. I can't believe it. I like it took forever too, and I thought, okay, no more drama in overtime too, but they got it done in less than 2 minutes in overtime, and because I was like, I don't want any more drama, and well, I didn't have as much overtime drama as I thought I'd have, but it was good, and it could have been a 2-on-1 the other way had Jack missed the puck, but Jack Hughes stepped up at the right moment. Brock Nelson is uh, I okay. New topic. Brock Nelson is the nephew of Dave Christensen. Now, I don't know. I think it was his dad. Uh, He was no. He's the grandson of the 1960 of his grandpa won the gold medal there. His uncle wins the 1980 gold medal, and now Brock Nelson is a gold medalist. And congratulations to New York Islander Brock Nelson. Um, Connor Hellebuck was the best player of the game, no question. Too bad they don't have a Conn Smythe for this, though. I'd give it to Hellebuck, though. But what a game! And even though Johnny Gaudreau probably would have played had he been alive, Austin Matthews and crew held up his jersey to honor him and couldn't have asked for a better gentleman than Austin Matthews to do it. You just couldn't do it. So once again, RIP to Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau could have been there too had he just you know, but that's in the past. It's all in the past. To the Canadian fans, I'll tell you this. Macklin Celebrini is young. He has done so much good for the San Jose Sharks, and he probably will get in to the playoffs, assuming he just goes on a tear and goes on a run with them, with Will Smith and Nedeljkovic. He'll do well, and he'll get his gold medal. He's only 19. I say he's going to have at least three more chances to get a gold, and he's probably going to get three gold medals. Personally, this it wasn't a miracle on ice situation. The game, it just was not, because this thing because they weren't playing. It wasn't amateurs playing professionals that were technically not professionals moment. Some of these players are teammates across from each other. Some of them are teammates with each other. Players are brothers. There's they played with each other and against each other multiple times. Macklin Celebrini plays against McDavid on occasion. Wilson, I don't know if he was teammates with, oh yeah, that's right. Um, he's played against his teammates, and it's been a crazy run. But I think this is only going to prep them for the Stanley Cup playoffs coming up, personally. Now, I was talking with my dad. This, it almost could have been a Sweden-Finland final for all we knew. Sweden, I mean, Mika Zibanejad, remember, if it wasn't for Quinn Hughes stepping up in the Sweden game in the semis, in the game or the game prior to the semis, we would have a totally different time. And Finland went up 2-0 on Canada. I'm like thinking, oh, geez, Canada could lose this. But Finland earned their bronze. They certainly earned their bronze, and probably had they played them another two times, Finland wins those other two times. And I talked a little bit about this in one of my videos, I believe, the parody of competition, and it's getting to where it's sort of like the World Cup in soccer, and also, you have the World Cup in soccer, and so anything can go. And certainly with Sweden and Finland, they proved why they were in the Four Nations tournament. Speaking of the Four Nations tournament, McDavid stepping up, getting the OT winner, all that jazz, and you think maybe he'll do it. Maybe he'll do it this time in the Olympics. No, it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. I am sorry to report that Jack Hughes stepped up in probably the most critical moment of his life. And he'll probably never score a bigger goal in his life. And unless the Devil, I mean, I don't see the Devils getting to the Stanley Cup playoffs this year, but unless he like scores the overtime, like the double overtime winner in game 7 of a Stanley Cup final, would we have that discussion? But no, I don't think he's going to ever score a bigger goal in his life. It is like Joe Carter hitting the 1993 walk-off home run, or Bill Mazeroski hitting in the 1960 home run. Rest in peace, Bill Mazeroski. If you are a baseball fan, if you're a Pirate fan. So there's that. It has been a very interesting year for sports overall. We've seen arguably in 1 year, we've had arguably the greatest all-star matchup, at least in hockey, the most watched, with 16 million viewers watching the final all-star matchup between Canada and the United States. Now, Canada did win that, but it did help grow the sport, and it got eyeballs on the sport. More than the NBA final, more than the NBA All-Star game, certainly. And I think more than the MLB All-Star game, too. So there's that. Um, so yeah, there's that. And it got people attention too. The most watched women's hockey game of all time was this one, the 2026 Milan Olympics between the United States and Canada. Megan Keller gets gets it. Hillary Knight scores the first goal for them, and the rest, as they say, is history. Congratulations to Pappy on getting an assist in this game. I didn't think Austin Matthews would do it, but he did. And I mean, Brady Kachuk could have scored too in this, though. This is an immediate first reaction too. Never had ever has the United States beaten Canada to win the beat Canada in a gold medal game. It just didn't happen. And and despite all of the ups and downs, it proves that the underdog can still win. And it also proves that hard work beats talent. And and Jack Hughes played through the pain and he just took the hardest wrist shot of his life and he just won. And as soon as that was in, the entire arena went nuts. And I don't care if you were a Canadian fan or an American fan, or if you were just, you know, and a regular Italian citizen watching the game, not understanding it. It was crazy, and you could feel the atmosphere. There's never going to be another game like that. Even if the United States wins in 2030, it's not going to be like that because, you don't forget the droughts. You don't forget the times. You don't forget the time um, where you win it after such a long drought. 46 years. How many of my listeners right now were alive in 1980? How many of you were? Probably maybe a handful because this is a podcast marketed to the last of the millennials and Gen Z. Maybe Gen Alpha is listening to this right now or watching me on film. But this was one of the best moments in in the Olympics of all time. Not even just in hockey, but just in the Olympics. And it is a special thing to consider too. And Sweden and Finland could have knocked off the United States and Canada respectively. I mean, don't forget it too. Okay, let me get a breather here. Oof. The too many men thing in the third, I really thought it's like that was obvious. I forgot who kicked the puck, but there were seven guys on there. You could have, and apparently for whatever reason, the refs just let them play on. I think that Canada is going to be a bit salty about that one personally, but again, there were so many takedowns and checks and things that were called. So if you want to just play this straight, don't um, you know, what if it was an extra penalty on you guys as well? And then the United States gets that power play. So I don't know whether or not, um, if it balanced out overall, what the outcome was going to be. We don't know because things were just too deliberate and they let so many things slide and there was some roughing to stuff too and and everything. But the 3-on-3 was not checking. They needed to get going. And if anything, it showed true skill because when you have room to skate, room to maneuver, you're going to maybe the maybe the top guys just don't get it. And maybe and maybe they just put too much trust in, or they overpass and they don't take that, and they don't have that killer instinct in that moment, and they just lose. And maybe that's the thing. But Hellebuck coming big on McDavid and Celebrini was probably the thing that won the United States the gold medal. And it took them so long. Someone just texted me. My friend Jeremy texted me just now. He said amazing game and amazing win. Shout out to Jeremy. Thank you for texting into the show. So there's that. I still don't believe what we're seeing. It's going to inspire a generation of players as well. This stuff always does. 1980, a bunch of guys from Boston and Minnesota took to the ice to inspire a generation and create one of the best movies Disney ever made as well. Um, oh my God. Um, I almost forgot to mention this part. Why did I forget to mention this part? Kurt Russell, the dad in Sky High, narrated the, you know, the opening part, and I liked it. I enjoyed it too. And Sky High, yeah, yeah. Adam, he was Herb Brooks in Miracle. Yeah, I know. A little bit of a joke there as well, but you know, it was a good thing that he did. He was there. You know, a lot of songs could take place with this. I don't think, I think John Cooper, the head coach of Canada, did all he could. I think he did everything right, but I think there was just not enough gas in the tank, and Celebrini could only do so much. Do I think, but had Bedard been there, would it have made a difference? Maybe it would have. But Celebrini was just the better pick, and I think Bedard is a bit salty too. I'd still say had he been there, he would have still appreciated the silver medal as well. This tournament was, another friend texted me. This tournament was arguably one of the most fun to watch, even with the Peacock and the NBC stuff, and the times just being so wrong. It really was one of the best games ever. And I don't know if we're ever going to see another game like that again. We will have excellent games in the NHL. Don't get me wrong, but this game was special. It always is when you know when a team that doesn't win gold wins gold. And whether that's for hockey, whether that's for hurling, whether that's for cricket or soccer or who knows what, it's still always a very good moment. And I will make a documentary on this or something. I will put something together of a breakdown of how they did it. The women's game, too, was excellent. And I think it's the fact that they still had a lot more development going into this. And I think also with the establishment of the PWHL, I think the women also had a little bit of an easier time too, because the PWHL is essentially brand new, and also guess what? Everyone's getting accustomed to everyone else more often than anything else. And they're not just retiring after college, they're going on to bigger and better stuff. You take someone like Alex Carpenter, and she's going to go well up against Sarah Nurse because they see each other all the time. And I think that's what makes this Olympics so special is that teammates who are normally teammates play against each other, and teammates that aren't normally each other are who aren't normally there, play against each other, play with each other, and so on, and vice versa. That's what made this tournament special. 16 years ago, Sidney Crosby scores the golden goal, you know, and and I don't know what I was, and and it was a very different game too. One, because it was an Olympic-sized rink. Two, because you take like a Ryan Miller or a Phil Kessel, and they're not there anymore. And Carey Price is not even playing in the NHL anymore either. And people change, people go through stuff, and to maintain a career for 16 years is very hard. But Crosby was chosen for a reason. Do I think Canada could have won it with Crosby there? Actually, yes. And it would have taken, you know, because I do think that Canada, burned up. They burned up their fuel. They were gassed. And Celebrini, you could see it in Celebrini's face, and he as well. He was gassed. He was probably more gassed than in any other game he played in. And he played on a shorter rink than he ever played on. Well, not since he was a child, or like a not since he was not since before he was a teenager. But he was gassed, and I could tell many of them were gassed. Even Bennington looked a little gassed too at the end of it. But but you know, who would have expected Cale Makar to get a goal and not McDavid? You know, there was also a piece of me that thought that Hellebuck could have gotten a shutout. I don't think he was, you know, I sort of knew if he gets a shutout, we get the win and we don't have to deal with overtime drama. We still had to deal with a little bit of overtime drama, but Hellebuck got the win. And I think it was just luck. Cale Makar was in the right place at the right time. There's no taking that back. You know, you know, I mean, would it, Canada has 9 gold medals, the US 3. The Soviet Union doesn't even exist anymore. So who gets those gold medals at the end of it? You know, would Russia have been a difference had the Ukraine war not broken out in 2022? Yeah, they probably would have been a factor in this. And but the way things were placed in this Olympics probably made the difference overall. The United States didn't go up against Finland, and Canada didn't go up against Sweden. And remember, Canada almost lost to Czechia too. And but things just turn out different. You know, a lot of just it's just luck. Maybe it was a little luck. Maybe it was the fact that there was some ref that, I don't know why that other ref didn't call it too. The momentum certainly would have shifted, but maybe you call something else. Maybe Bennett's, maybe you just call something else prior to that, and things just turn out differently. Finland won the bronze against Slovakia, and it was a well-earned win. It was 6-1, all the things. I think Finland could have still made the argument too, and they should have challenged Brad Marchand Saros. in their game. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? The 2020s has gifted us with the greatest era of hockey ever. Whether it was the Tampa Bay Lightning almost getting a dynasty, the Florida Panthers almost getting a dynasty, you know, McKinnon getting his first Stanley Cup, Jack Eichel getting a Stanley Cup too. A lot of Stanley Cup players have already played in the Stanley Cup finals too. All the things and the greatest butterfly era and even the greatest disappointments, whether it was the 2023 Bruins versus the Panthers and thus starting the Panthers almost dynasty. There's a lot to be grateful for this sport, and it's going to inspire a lot of generations to come, just like 1980 did. And I don't know if we're ever going to get a true movie on this or something like Miracle. Probably not. That's okay. It wasn't a miracle on ice situation. These are professional players who can compete at the highest levels against each other. Matthews can take on McDavid. Hughes can take on McCarr. Uh, Quinn Hughes can take on McCarr. D to D, D versus D. And Hellebuck certainly proved his why he's the greatest goaltender in the world. There's nothing I like more than a good hockey game, but this was the greatest hockey game I ever saw in my life. Between the AHL games I saw, between the NHL games I've been to, between the college hockey games I've been to, between the high school games I've been to, between all the tournament games and all the places I've traveled, nothing compares to watching it on the couch and watching Jack Hughes just score. The greatest, one of the greatest moments in USA hockey history. Mike Eruzione was in the building. Dave Christensen were in the building. I already said that, but they brought the magic. And I think that's a good place to end this segment. If you liked this episode, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. This was arguably the greatest hockey game ever played, or one of the greatest ever played. And it was, and it may be, and it may go down as the most memorable. Check out the links, share it with your friends. And with that being said, take care.